So welcome. Today I'm so happy to have Lori-Lyn Hurley as my guest in the Kindred Spirits interview series. Welcome, Lori-Lyn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could join us. And so Lori-Lyn is a writer. She's a spiritual guide. She's a healer. She's a coach, and a lot of other things as well. Because you do so much, and yeah, I've been really resonating with your writing because it just really goes deeply, and there's something about I think the words and the tone you use that is really, really, really beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So this is kind of my introduction of you, but how would you describe yourself? Like, is there anything you want to share about you, your journey, and the work that you do?
Yeah, I do primarily think of myself as a writer or as a creative person. That's where my love has always been.
Mm.
But it just so happens that I went on this personal journey first and discovered this connection to what I think of as spiritual allies, that support that we all have. And I became really passionate about helping other people connect to that guidance and really understand that it's not something that's just for special people, that it's a gift we all have, and it's a support that's there for all of us. And so I do think my work is really eclectic, like it changes all the time. But that's the thread that's always running through it. But because I like to make things and I like to change things, I think I do change up what my offerings are and how that work is actually coming into the world. But that's always the heart, is that connection and that message, that understanding that this is for everyone, and that if you want to have this spiritual connection, this support, you can. It's something that's available to us. And so I really feel like that's always at the heart of my work, but I find a lot of different ways to express that because that's how my personality is, that I like to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and that's really great too, because it's not like, because some people stay really in the same answer and exactly doing the same things over and over, which can be really great too, but it's just so exciting. And even your website, every time I go in, it looks a little bit different and you change things up, but it still feels like it's you. It doesn't feel like you're doing something completely different. And then there's so many things that kind of fit together anyway, don't they? Like with their, it has something about animals and how like messages from animals, which is like really linked to, I guess, connections with spirit too. It's just because there's so much in this field that we can explore, and then it's like we go on this journey with you because you explore things and then you share them with us, which is right. It's always great to kind of walk with someone on their path.
That's yeah, and that's exactly how I see it and feel it. That I don't. It's always been really hard for me to put labels on what I do, and I try to sort of approximate with labels. But the truth is, like, that's how I see it. Is just I'm walking on my path, and I invite people to walk with me, and I think we can have these really rich relationships as we walk together. And I do love to share about what I'm discovering and what I'm resonating with at the time, which definitely changes. Sometimes I'm over here and sometimes I'm over here, and I'm sampling what's going on in the world. And I do see spirituality as completely holistic. It's about every aspect of our lives. And so the rituals that I use or the way that I connect or what's resonating with me at any particular time, that's always going to be changing and evolving as my needs are changing and evolving, and as the needs of my clients are changing and evolving.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And it's interesting what you said also about this being for everyone, so that people don't think that it's for special people or that you have to be really, really intuitive or really be in touch with your intuition. Because I mean, some people have been super intuitive all their lives, but not everyone does that. And I find that more and more people start embracing that side of them, and that things
Yeah.
move really for them, even if they don't feel like they were born with that. I mean, of course we all were, but some people were not necessarily aware of it as children or growing up. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
never too late, and we can always explore, and it's the joy of it as well, isn't it? It's like opening this magical box, and you can
Yeah.
find things in it and treasures, and I mean, who doesn't want to do that, and who does not have
Right.
access to that?
Right.
Right.
And it is like it never stops being amazing and surprising. And I kind of think of it a little bit like playing the piano. There are some people who are born with a musical inclination and they really take to the piano and they can play by ear and they play from a really young age and it feels natural to them. But then one person might not ever touch a piano until they are an adult, but that adult can still learn to play the piano to a certain degree. And so maybe not in the same way that someone else plays it, but you can still have the enjoyment of playing the piano. And I kind of see intuitive development in the same way. People have different levels that they come in with. We have different understandings of what that means. What does it mean to receive guidance? How do you receive guidance? That's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, and there's no right or wrong way, and there's no like levels. I mean, I don't necessarily like that. I mean, it's just not because it's not better to receive messages like seeing writing or seeing images
Right.
than it is to feel things in your body. It's just like we're all kind of just on our own path and
Yeah.
exploring it, and we're not like behind or ahead of anyone. It's just a
Right.
journey, right?
Absolutely. And I feel like that's one of the biggest stumbling blocks for people, is this idea of hierarchy or the idea that there's a right way. And so if you hear other people talking about their experiences of what they see or what they hear, and you know that you're not having those experiences, then you think that it's not happening for you.
Yeah.
But it's actually just all about finding your language. Like you have an intuitive language. That's the way that you receive guidance and the way that you connect to your guides.
Yeah.
And it's not worse or better than anybody else's way. It's your way,
Yeah, and maybe sometimes because our intuition is something natural, it's not necessarily spectacular. I mean, some people have spectacular experiences, but sometimes it can be a subtle voice or just a really strong inner knowing, but like a soft inner knowing. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't seem so big compared
Yeah.
to people who have those kinds of experiences. So that doesn't mean it's not good enough. Or
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember, like, in my own development, when I started thinking about these things and reading and meditating and trying to connect, I remember the moment when I had this realization, like, oh, that voice. Like, I was expecting this, like, huge, the clouds are going to part and this thing was going to happen. And when I realized that, oh, that is the voice I've always had, that little small voice.
That is so true. And that's funny because when I do retreats and I teach people how to connect with their guides, it does feel like it's more like a reminder of something they already know how to do and something that they're already familiar with than this sort of new spectacular movie type style connection.
Of course, that stuff is, if you can get that to happen.
But it doesn't have to be like that.
It doesn't have to be like that, yeah.
Sometimes it depends on the personality of the person as well, because we all have different voices, just like we speak in a different way, and it's so interesting, and it's great to have all those different kinds of ways of seeing and feeling and sensing, but I guess that's maybe part of our cultures as well, like comparing each other, like comparing what we're seeing with others, and feeling that someone else must know more than I do, which is not necessarily the case. I mean, some people can guide you, but it's like you're the only one who can explore your own inner voice. No one can do it for you. No one's going to know better than you do what things mean to you, so that it's really embodied, I guess, and really, like making it your own.
Absolutely. And I found almost every single time that someone has shared something with me and asked me what I think it means, they will then say what they think it means. And it's like, well, there's your answer. That's always, it's coming to you. Like, what it means because it's personal to you. And it's true. I don't think that anyone else, no matter how gifted they are, can show yourself better than you can see yourself. And that's why I love the word guide, because a guide is someone who walks with you and maybe points like, look over there, look over here, consider this. But a guide isn't telling you what your truth is, because no one else can really do that. That's what empowerment is. What I think of as spiritual empowerment is that you really come into your own truth and your own signs and your own guidance, and you trust what is already within you. It's not about reaching outside of yourself to find answers, but really looking inside of yourself where those answers already are.
Yeah.
And shining a light.
Yeah, I love how you said that, because it is about like feeling your own power. Because even if someone else could tell you the right answer, then just the fact that you find it yourself and you trust it. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it all, isn't it? Instead of if we had a book with all the answers to all our questions, that would not help us feel more powerful or more in tune with ourselves, or like feel like we're the masters of our own lives, and we're like, you know.
It's true, because we have free will. I mean, we make choices. So, you know, you have to figure out that way of asking, that balance between asking for guidance and seeking guidance and hearing it, and then also taking action on your own toward your dreams and your goals and what you want to bring into your life. It's like constantly a balance. You don't want to be passive. We wouldn't want to be just this thing sitting here being told what to do, you know?
Exactly. And that kind of stops the flow, doesn't it? Because I know for me, for years, I would just be like, if it's meant to be, it's just going to happen by magic. Yeah. But no, there's like, I have the intuition, the impulse to do something, and then I have to do it. I have to act. And sometimes I just have to take one or two steps, and I get so much support if it's the right thing, but I have to take the first step, because it's not going to just happen by itself.
Right.
And when you find that balance, that's when the magic happens, right? Because that's when you have both the intuition and you create things. And that's when you, start living your dreams, I guess.
Yeah. I always have to remind myself, you know, there's a reason I'm physical. There's a reason I'm in the physical world.
It's good to remind yourself sometimes, though, isn't it? Because I'm like, I could just float around all day. And it's like, physical body, there are advantages.
I can do things.
Yeah. I can feel things in my body. I can like do all the fun stuff that you can in a physical body that functions well, which is great. Yeah. And Sue, as you probably know, in the series I asked everyone how they connect with spirit, whatever spirit is for them. And I would love to know how you connect with spirit.
Well, as you mentioned, I change a lot, so the way that I connect changes. I started through journal writing, and so I would do something sort of akin to automatic writing, where I would write questions and sort of hear or feel the answers and write them in a journal. And I still do a lot of that, a lot of journal keeping. But these days, I would say that the primary way that I connect is just to go outside. And I have a space outdoors that feels like sanctuary to me, that feels very sacred to me. I'm always out there standing barefoot on the ground and feeling the air and watching the trees. And I really connect very strongly with nature spirit, and I have guides who are nature spirits. And so to me, that puts me directly into connection when I connect with the earth and the elements and I'm standing outside. Then I feel like I'm open and I'm able to feel my guidance and feel my guides. But you know, I sample a lot of things. I try a lot of things. I do all kinds of different kinds of meditations, and but never for me has it ever really been about the way that I was connecting as much as recognizing the connection. And so that comes in a lot of different forms. And I'm not someone, I can't hold myself to you know, this is how I do things. Like, I've just never been that way. I've always been more about exploring and trying. You know, I don't like to get bored, and so for me that's always changing.
Exciting. And so would you like to share some ideas or tips on how people can connect with spirit? Maybe what you do with connecting with nature. How would you suggest to someone who's kind of starting out, or who has started a little bit, but who is like looking for other ways, or have tried some that aren't really working for them, like when it comes to nature? Because such a powerful way to connect, isn't it?
It really is, and I think it's actually so simple and so natural, you know, that sometimes we make it more complicated than it really is. Because I think that if you take your shoes off and stand on the ground and really bring your awareness down into your feet, you can start to feel what's moving up from the earth. You can feel that connection coming up through your feet, and then you start to feel yourself as a living creature, as part of this living whole. And so I think that's the first piece of advice that I would give anyone is just do that. Just go make that connection and feel that earth connection. Feel what happens to you inside your body when you do that, how you start to shift and how it feels different to you. And I think breath is so crucial and important because breath is spirit. And so many times I'm connecting with someone, I do a little bit of energy work, and I will feel that they're breathing into like the top part of their chest, or their breath is sort of stopping right here. And we really have to be mindful, I think, of bringing breath all the way through the body, because that's how spirit is coming through. That's how we are giving and receiving. We're connecting through breath. And so I think when you are outside and you're watching the wind move in the trees and you're watching how air moves, that's a reminder to, okay, air, breath is also moving through me, and that I'm a part of that. I'm just like that leaf that's, you know, connected to the tree but blowing in the wind. That's like me. And I, you know, that kind of connection, I think. And I also work with trees a lot, and I recommend that people work with trees, and that's something that I've done ever since I was a child. I didn't know what I was doing. I wouldn't have put the same language around it, but I would go walk up to trees and talk to them and feel their energy and sit with them. And I think if you ask, you know, ask permission, approach a tree and ask, and just kind of feel the answer, feel the invitation from the tree. And I think sitting with your spine along the trunk of a tree and your feet on the ground, like how much better does it get than that? Like, you feel yourself totally supported, and you can feel spiritual energy, and you feel safe, and you feel that connection, or at least I do. So that's what I would recommend doing to connect with nature.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love connecting with trees too. And it's so funny because kids always climb trees, right? I mean, always. And it's so interesting because I find that trees have such a strong but really grounding energy. So it feels like it does feel safe, doesn't it? It's not one of those swirly energies where you don't know if you're going to have your feet on the ground when you connect or not. It's just like really kind of intense, but in a grounded way, which is a great way to start, isn't it? Like for someone exploring or wanting to explore.
Yeah, I always say that it's the least glamorous thing, but the most important thing to always start with grounding. Like sometimes people don't want to start there, but if you're not grounded, you can't do this. I mean, it's like that's so essential, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I wasn't much into grounding before, but when I started, I noticed that everything got so much better because it's always a question of balance, and you can't just like be up here because
Right.
at one point it just kind of stops and you can't go further unless you're grounded enough so you can bring in all of it, and it's just such a different feeling. It's still really awesome and great, but it's like different. Yeah, grounded, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there was a time in my life when I didn't pay attention to grounding at all, and my experiences were not as they were I didn't enjoy them as much. I mean, they were happening, you know, I was connecting and it was happening, but it wasn't as clear. I couldn't trust it as much. And and it would also cause me to have weird physical symptoms because I was all up here. And you know, and then when I really understood that I needed to ground myself, that's when it all shifted for me and became much more pleasurable, and I could really trust my guidance and trust myself.
I guess it's all about like embodying the messages because otherwise it's like
Yeah.
you can't bring them down somehow. So you have these like, amazing realizations and experiences, but it's like they're not fully in you yet. And then
Exactly.
you go, oh, this is what it can feel like. That's why it's so great to explore and have fun and try different things, right? Because we don't know until we've done it. So I think it's great to be like curious and to try things and not be too rigid and serious
Yeah.
because that kind of closes us down too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's another thing that I try to talk about a lot is that, like, not to be afraid of this. Like, this is your domain. This belongs to you. You're a spiritual being. You're allowed to do this. And I think a lot of times culturally we're taught avoid this, just stay away from spiritual connection, it's dangerous. And then any type of fear or trepidation about it is going to be a block. You're not going to have the clear connection that you want to have. And, I just think this is a safe thing to do because it's who we are.
Yeah. And now we have so much access to, like, amazing people who can help us out. We have people we can talk about it with. We're not being persecuted the same way as we have been in the past. So it's like, it's really the time to start exploring and to feel safe doing it. And to trust that if something does not feel good or feels a bit off, well, if you're listening, then you will know that. And then you can stop. It's not like you're not like a victim, or you're not just handing everything over to something else and not really.
Yeah, and I mean, I always say about true guidance, like, you're always in control of that. It's not, if something's overpowering you, then that's not guidance. That's not what this is. Like, you're always in the driver's seat of this, and you're always deciding what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow, and you're always making decisions. So yeah, and I think owning spiritual connection for yourself just puts you in that place where you understand that you're in control, that you're not going to be dominated by something else or someone else.
Yeah, I think that's really important to know as well, because there are a lot of fears about that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I think our time is up already. It was really, really wonderful talking to you, Lori-Lyn, and I'm sure that the people who watched this video learned a lot of great things from you as well. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to put there are some links to your website as well at the bottom of the video if people want to check you out and read your beautiful blog, or
Thank you.
buy some of your products, or book a session with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
Bye.